Greetings, my name is Professor Paul Zilungisele Tembe, founder and director of Cele Encounters, a cross-civilizational communication strategies and analytics in Pretoria, South Africa. Today, the 5th of September, it was an opening ceremony of the 9th FOCAC Summit. There are some specifics with this summit which makes it different from previous ones. The 9th FOCAC Summit has main two subjects, where the theme of the 9th FOCAC Summit is joining hands to advance modernization and build a high-level China-Africa community with a shared future. It is set to attract leaders from across Africa, along representatives of international organizations, African Union, including the United Nations. FOCAC has become multimodal in a manner of speaking. It is multimodal because it now not only caters for political organizations or political understanding or bilateral relations between Africa and China. It is multimodal in the sense that it caters for trade, it caters for issues of security, and it also caters for issues of politics. These three together combined has led China-Africa relations and cooperation to the fourth. Although what has been more prominent, it is infrastructure investments. There are many other modes that have taken place within this multimodal structure of China-Africa cooperation. One of them being the people-to-people exchange. Like one of my wise friends said, is that there is no conducting of trade without the impetus of people-to-people relations or people-to-people exchange mechanism. FOCAC is also multinodal in the sense that FOCAC is inclusive in the sense it doesn't have one main center. Previously we've had it, the last FOCAC, we had it in Senegal, in Dakar, in 2021. Now in 2024 we're having it being held in Beijing. And in 2015 we had it right at home here in South Africa. But it is also multi-pronged, meaning that FOCAC does not only play within the configuration of uniting or cooperating between China and Africa, but it has gone further to be a vehicle to access other goods and other avenues and economies which African countries wouldn't be able to access those economies if they were not party to the member states of FOCAC. Now, two things have happened in this FOCAC with its two themes. The first theme is jointly advanced modernization. And the concept of modernization and jointly advanced modernization is also linked and it joins together with another notion, the notion of global initiatives. And in this sense, we're speaking of global civilization initiative, because each and every civilization, within it, we have a knowledge system. What has been at fault historically in terms of modernization is that the entire world has been looking at one type of modernization, which is that of Western Enlightenment. So by default would mean that other civilizations are inferior because they are not able to come or get into fruition any type of modernization. But the rise of China, beginning with 1987, during its own reform and opening up, has proven that theory wrong. But this theory also goes to another notion, the notion of cross-civilization or cross-cultural communication. Whilst the standard cross-cultural communication was based on the ethos that it was the master listening or trying to study the native, today we're enjoying the partnership of equals. So that is why it is very imperative that we understand in the notion of jointly advanced modernization. It doesn't mean that Chinese modernization is at the fore. Here we're looking at African modernization and Chinese modernization within the ambit of FOCAC and beyond. At the same time, we have another theme, the second theme of this FOCAC, which is partnership action. Partnership action says a lot. One of the issues, it speaks of inclusiveness that we also experience on the first theme. Partnership action, it subsumes that both Africa and China are together in pushing all the issues that may be part and parcel that impedes development in Africa. But it also speaks to one another bigger aspect, the notion of partnership of equals. Whilst previously we've had a relationship of a master-subject relationship, today with one of the bigger economies in the world, the second biggest economy globally, Africa enjoys partnership of equals. China in Africa accounts for 1/3 of world population. Without modernization of China and Africa, there will be no global modernization. In the next 3 years, China will work with Africa to take the following 10 partnership actions of modernization to deepen China-Africa cooperation and spearhead the global south. The first partnership action is for mutual learning among civilization, meaning that there's no civilization that is inferior than another, because each and every civilization is a carrier of a knowledge system. So exchanges of civilization within the framework of global civilizational initiative and partnership of equals will help us achieve the process of mutual learning among civilization. The second one is partnership action for trade prosperity. That will include means in which Africa can facilitate trade from China, and in the manner that China can facilitate trade from Africa. One of the issues here which is prominent and which has taken a high table within this discussion, which has been of prominence, it is using trade prosperity as part and parcel to mitigate or eliminate trade deficit. Of late, China has announced 24 products from Africa, mostly agricultural products, agricultural produce that can be exported to China. This is part and parcel of this trade prosperity. Another one is that Africa should not only export raw materials, but it has also to have a chance to grow its industries and export already beneficiated products. Third is the partnership action for industrial chain cooperation. Beyond the special economic zones or special industrial zones that we already have in Africa, China is ready to help with new types of pilot economic zones in different parts of Africa. And in the case of South Africa, we are looking at township and rural enterprise that will benefit from this particular partnership of industrial chain cooperation. The fourth one being partnership action for connectivity. When we speak of connectivity, we don't only speak of transport, we speak of internet, we speak of other means of connectivity amongst people. This will also help population in the rural areas to be able to access benefits from the centers in their own country. So this also includes not only connectivity in terms of internet, but also it includes the general infrastructure of building roads, ports, and railways. The fifth partnership action for development is that of development cooperation, whereby China and Africa will find specific areas of development cooperation. Not that only one party will decide which part of cooperation is needed. The sixth partnership action is that of health. This will go beyond building of simple hospitals. This will go beyond issues of pandemics, but to include youth development, to include the well-being of women and children in remote areas, and general development of health facilities in Africa. The seventh partnership action is the agriculture and livelihoods. The seventh partnership action includes agriculture. In terms of agriculture, we're speaking of agriculture modernization. And in agriculture modernization, it links also with the fifth partnership of development cooperation, because the agriculture modernization is going also to link with the township and rural growth development. In terms of livelihoods, there's already a 10,000 livelihoods projects all over Africa. So agriculture modernization will go hand in hand with livelihoods projects of development. The eighth one is partnership action for people-to-people exchanges. The people-to-people exchanges will take the entire spectrum beyond cultural exchanges, will take the entire spectrum of education, starting with vocational training, academic training, and Luban vocational workshops will spearhead these people-to-people exchanges, whereby we will have majority Africans going to study in China as teachers to vocational workshops in Africa under the banner of Luban. The ninth partnership action is that for green development. Well, this coincides also with the plan of China this year for the next coming years of importing and making Africa, especially South Africa, to be the base and foundation of electric vehicles. So green development has got three structures. One, develop green type of energy. Second, how to store that energy. Thirdly, how to replace or establish a transition where in areas where Africa still relies on green fossil fuel. 10th, the partnership action for common security will take place under the Global Security Initiative. China has pledged to have the African youth and other military organizations within national frameworks to go and train in China, where they will have joint exercise, both in patrol and development of their military skills. This will include a group of more than 100,000 police, African police, that will be going to train in China. Now, what makes all of this possible? One has to remember that the Communist Party of China has held in July a successful third plenary session of its 20th Central Committee. It laid out a systematic plan for further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. This profoundly further transforms China, and in turn it transforms Africa also, because every time or every instance of China deepening or further deepening its reform and opening up, its cooperation partners have gained from the growth boon. It is also to provide new opportunities and new driving forces for African countries and for our, as in China-Africa, joint pursuits for modernization. As an African proverb goes, a friend is someone you share the path with. On the path to modernization, no one and no country should be left behind. Let China and Africa rally the more than 208 billion Chinese and African people into a powerful force on our shared path toward modernization, promote modernization of the Global South with China-Africa modernization, and write a new magnificent chapter of development in human history. Let China and Africa join hands to bring about a bright future of peace, security, prosperity, and progress for our world. With such a framework and such a declaration at the opening ceremony, what is it that we wish for as Africa? It is our hope that the current FOCAC, the 9th FOCAC Summit, is a locus for African member states to engage in a more proactive, enhanced, active African agency in the process of building a high-level China-Africa community of a shared future. Thank you.